Barack Obama's dirty secret gets exposed during an exchange with Tucker Carlson and comedian Dave Smith. Guys, this is gonna be a fun video. I think you're gonna like it. I know I enjoyed it. So we're gonna get right into it, guys. But first, please make sure you like our video, share it around, and subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel. Why subscribe? So we can keep bringing you guys this great content, of course. That's why. Let's get into it.
If you're in the leadership class, you have, and I mean, I've been in it my whole life, I know. You have a moral obligation to admit it.
Yes.
Because once you admit it out loud, then you realize there are, massive benefits to it, but there are also massive obligations to it. They're shirking their duty.
That's right.
That's what they're actually doing.
And that's actually the opposite of being noble. It's fraudulent.
Ignoble. It's disgusting.
Yes, and it's a lie. Your whole thing is based on a lie.
Disgusting.
It's Sam Bankman-Fried.
Of course.
Right? Oh, I just drive like a shitty little Toyota. It's like, oh, actually, you're defrauding.
Michelle Obama goes to Princeton for free.
Yeah.
And has been in the ruling class her whole life.
Yeah.
And she's still lecturing you about how she's a victim of racism. Hillary Clinton, exact same thing. Goes to Wellesley, spends her entire life in the ruling class, and she's still whining about how she's discriminated against. Why are they doing that?
Yeah, and did you hear?
We got a fun clip about Michelle Obama that we'll show you after this. As for Hillary Clinton, you remember when she was talking about being a supposed outsider in the political process, and she even used that as an opportunity to complain about being a woman. She literally said, well, I can't imagine a bigger outsider than the first female president. By definition, I'm an outsider. Wah, wah, wah. Always complaining, always whining. Oh, because I'm a woman, because I'm this color, that color. Wah, 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 I'm oppressed. It's just so tiresome. And thankfully, a lot more people are waking up to it today than they did, say, 10 years back. So thank God for that.
They'll have like pictures of side by side, but it'll be like pictures of like Jimmy Carter's house and Obama's house.
Exactly.
And it totally represents something about the like corroding of our soul. That you're like, we would allow people who call themselves public servants, which of course is ridiculous, they're not, but still they don't even have to pretend to keep up a facade of that. Like you get to live in this insane like mansion off what? Because you were president and you get to cash in on that now?
In a white neighborhood, you should be required to live in the hood if you're Barack Obama. And
if you're using that card.
You use that card. The only reason you got elected was because of your race. You spent your entire 8 years inflaming race hate in our country. And then you go to Martha's Vineyard, the whitest zip code in the world? Not allowed. Yeah. You're not allowed to do that.
Well, it also, I mean, it did so much damage. His inflaming racial hatred. And I'll say after, Barack Obama's campaign in 2008, first of all, it was just leaving how you feel about the guy aside, it was an amazing campaign. It was unlike anything that had ever been run before.
It was genius.
Yes, it was totally brilliant. It was now, of course, it wasn't what they presented it as. It wasn't like a grassroots campaign. He was approved of by the powers that be.
Of course.
He didn't just happen to, as a junior senator, get like a primetime speaking slot in 2004 where he gave that speech.
He wasn't even a senator yet.
Was he a state senator still at the time?
That's when I first met Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Walking down the street, smoking a cigarette in Boston on my way to dinner at the Palm. I'll never forget it. And I met him and Jesse Jackson Jr. They pulled over to say hi to me.
Really?
And I'd never heard his name. And I covered politics for a living.
Right.
And he gave the keynote at the end of that week. That was Sunday night. He spoke on Thursday. And yeah, he was not a U.S. senator. Right. That was the campaigin. It was great. It was absolutely crazy.
So it was clearly kind of orchestrated by some powerful
by
people.
the Pritzker family, of course.
Listen, the speeches that he gave and much of the message, first off, there's probably a lot of things that I would have agreed with him that he was running on. I agreed with a lot of things George W. Bush ran on in the year 2000.
Well, I'll tell you what I agreed with.
Turned around and didn't govern like that at all.
Let's sort of like elect the black guy and get past the race stuff. I loved that.
Well, especially because that was his message.
That was his message. And
let's get past the race stuff.
I love that.
He goes, there was a broader, more unifying thing. I mean, I remember because he was such a powerful, like public speaker. I mean, he never really said anything, but it would still be beautiful.
Yes.
I remember in his acceptance speech at 2008 at the DNC, we had this whole line where he was like, I love this country, and so do you, and so does John McCain. The men and women who have fought for this country have been Republicans and Democrats and independents, but they fought together and died together, not defending a red America or a blue America, the United States of America. And it's like, and then it's like, he didn't really say anything there, but but it was beautifully put.
I'm 100% for that.
Yeah, the message was great. And
great.
And look, he also was very critical of the George W. Bush
All right, guys, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna disagree with both Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith. I think they're completely wrong. Much love to them both. I both like them, very stand-up, intelligent gentlemen. This idea that Barack Obama is a really good and powerful public speaker, I hear this thrown around a lot, and I just can't agree. Take the man and make him do a speech without a teleprompter, unprompted, the way Trump does, for instance. He can't do it. I mean, you ever heard of the Obama stutter?
If this is being...
Yeah, not a great public speaker unless he has a teleprompter there just doing the job for him. Sorry, but that's the truth. And as for that part about Obama running originally to be a racial unifier, this was true. Did he hold it up? Absolutely not. You guys remember Obama's famous quote about the Trayvon Martin case? Well, let me do an impression real quick. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon Martin. Yeah, race baiter in chief. You gotta love Barack Obama. Never mind that George Zimmerman was a Hispanic guy who was then conveniently rebranded as some kind of white supremacist who came and just attacked a random black kid. Never mind the fact that Trayvon Martin was beating Zimmerman's head into the sidewalk and making it bleed before he then decided to shoot him. Never mind any of that. No. It was racism. Racism caused it all. Ugh. So yeah, did Obama run on the premise of being a racial unifier? Sure, I suppose he did. But he ended up implementing the opposite. And that was by design.
Administration's excesses, and I'm going to end the war in Iraq. I'm going to reinstitute habeas corpus. We're going to end torture. There were a lot of, he didn't do any of that. I mean, I guess he ended the war in Iraq eventually and then reinvaded the country because the ISIS fighters he was arming invaded the country. But then I think essentially what happened, and it was around Obama's re-election campaign, this is where things really went off the rails in this country, was that he got in there and continued and expanded all the worst of the Bush policies.
Oh, of course.
And so they almost had nothing to run on. And so they decided to pivot to a culture war instead. And this was a decision, and again, I don't know exactly what the conspiracy is, but this decision was made from the top down. That I think it was a response to Obama's failures. It was a response to these movements like the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street, which were getting a little bit too close.
That's right.
A little bit too close to the target. And all this, I'm sure you've looked at this before, but where there's these nexus charts and you can chart out like how many times all the woke terms are used, transgenderism, all that. And it's all like right around 2012 that it's all of a sudden like, systemic racism goes from being mentioned like this many times throughout history to like shooting up, like the New York Times and the Washington Post.
It's a very famous graph, and I've used it many times in trying to explain this, but that's exactly right. Like, fight amongst yourselves.
Yep.
Hope you guys enjoy that exchange. I know I found it pretty fascinating. Let's pivot to that clip about Michelle Obama and just show what a professional victim she is and how insufferable it can be.
Michelle Obama is still speaking out on the issues that she championed as First Lady. She is now the star and the executive producer of the Netflix show Waffles and Mochi. This children's program is terrific. Wow. It focuses on teaching kids the value of healthy eating by sharing stories and traditions from around the world. But Monday, only on CBS This Morning, she's going to reveal Waffles and Mochi's next adventure. These two are very, very busy. We sat down with her in Washington, where she told us why she's very excited about her upcoming initiative with Partnership for a Healthier America. We also spoke with Mrs. Obama about some of the other challenges facing America. We asked about her reaction to the jury's decision to find Derek Chauvin guilty for the death of George Floyd. After the verdict, she and former President Obama released a statement saying the jury in Minneapolis did the right thing. She told us what compelled them to speak out after that critical decision.
The goal is to let leaders lead, but in certain times people, look to us often, well, what do you think? How do you feel? And we know that while we're all breathing a sigh of relief over the verdict, there's still work to be done. And so we can't sort of say, great, that happened, let's move on. I know that people in the Black community don't feel that way.
Basically, they went and lynched a guy after a very questionable trial decision, but there's still work to be done. Oh, it's not enough. Nothing will be enough for these people. It's incredible.
Many of us still live in fear as we go to the grocery store or worry about walking our dogs or allowing our children to get a license. I mean, just imagine.
Aren't your girls driving?
They're driving. Yeah. But every time they get in a car by themselves, I worry about what assumption is being made by somebody who doesn't know everything about them.
Yeah, it's probably like every time my kids get in their extremely high-end luxury car that we bought for them because they don't have to work because of the sons of a former president, we worry that, oh, the big meaty white cops are going to come and be mean to them. Does anyone believe this crap? Ugh.
fact that they are good students and polite girls, but maybe they're playing their music a little loud. Maybe somebody sees the back of their head and makes an assumption. I, like so many parents of black kids, have to, that the innocent act of getting a license puts fear in our hearts. So I think we have to talk about it more, and we have to ask our fellow citizens to listen a bit more and to believe us and to know we don't want to be out there marching. I mean, all those Black Lives Matters kids, they'd rather not have to worry about this. They're taken to the streets because they have to. They're trying to have people understand that we're real folks, and the fear that many have of so many.
Did she just say they have to take out to the streets? Yeah, way to basically endorse terrorism, Michelle Obama. I can't say I'm surprised, but that's incredible. Let's not forget that Black Lives Matter was responsible for the biggest property damage ever seen in American history. Okay, we're talking at least $100 billion. Not to mention you had a bunch of people got killed and other things like that. Yeah, but they had to do it. Just disgusting. It really is.
Us is irrational, and it's based on a history that is just, it's sad and it's dark, and it's time for us to move beyond that.
Yeah, on Monday, you can see more of our exclusive conversation with the former First Lady about her ongoing mission to ensure that all families have access to healthy foods. It is a focus of her upcoming project with Waffles and Mochi. It's called Pass the Love. Like that title. We also spoke with Mrs. Obama about the impact this pandemic is having on our collective mental health. She's talked candidly about her concerns and concerns that she has for her own family during these racially and politically divided times. You know, it's very rare for the two of them to issue a statement about anything. They try very much not to get involved in a political way to speak, certainly against any party. They're very, very careful about that. But I think.
Did she just say the Obamas try not to get involved politically and that they don't try to sway with a certain party? Okay, excuse me, but is she on crack? I don't even... This propaganda, just when you think you can't get dumber, they never fail to impress you. That's wild.
They both felt, considering the times that we're living in, that they had to say something.
Well, I thought what she said was very interesting when she said, you know, like they don't want to be out there marching. They got other things they like to do.
Yeah, you know, she's right about that.
It's like they're marching because they're fearful.
Yeah, and you got to question your assumptions. I mean, if you're working in law enforcement, if you're that person behind somebody in a vehicle, you've got to ask yourself, is my first idea here my best idea about what's going on?
Yeah.
And the assumptions that are made when she says when they don't know people.
Ho hum, we're a bunch of sophisticated white liberals who care about the plight of African Americans. Yeah, sorry, I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't take another second of that. Just such garbage. So on that note, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys coming on. Be sure to comment below, let us know what you liked, what you want to see next, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, and God bless.